Well, now that the NHL offseason dust has settled, it's time to take a closer look at the Central Division. Which teams got better? Which teams got worse? And where are the Preds going to land in the standings? We'll talk about it today on the Locked On Predators podcast.
Your Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making the Locked On Predators podcast your first listen of the day. Every single day, we are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, want to start out with a special hello to our loyal Locked On Pred heads out there, the everydayers who tune into every single episode. We love you and we appreciate the support that you guys give us. I'm Nick Morgan. I am a writer at Penalty Box Radio, and I have a partner at crime.
You do. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at InsideThePreds.com.
Partner in crime.
Partner at crime. I just stand there while you crime.
Yeah. Now, partner in crime is like we're like doing it together. Like partner at crime is like
I'm in the vicinity.
Yeah.
I drive the getaway car. I just carried a watermelon. That's what I'm going to say. I just carried a watermelon. That's how I ended up here.
very much a Gallagher themed bank robbery.
There you go. Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, and delicious. We've talked a lot about the Nashville Predators this offseason, the changes they've made, how we think they've landed, if they've gotten better or worse, all that jazz. Now let's talk about the rest of the Central Division, the teams that the Nashville Predators are going to be competing with. Which one of them got better? Which one of them got worse? How will the standings shake out? Where are the Preds going to fall in between some of these teams? So, Ann, we got our notes ready. We got our notes ready to go through all 7 Central Division comrades for the Nashville Predators.
Our partners at crime in the
partners in crime. I guess that this one would be partners at crime. Let's start with the problem child of the Central Division, the Arizona Coyotes.
Okay, I was going to say the problem child are the Dallas Stars, but let's start with the Arizona Coyotes.
And looking at what the Coyotes did, do you think they got better or worse?
I'm going to go with, and this is where it's tricky. I'm going to go with they're about the same, maybe a little better. It's hard to, and I say this respectfully to the Arizona Coyotes, but it's hard to really get jazzed up for what the Arizona Coyotes did in the offseason, just because I feel like they are in such a challenging position even to begin. Now, a couple names they brought in that may be familiar to our listeners: John Leonard, Zach Sanford signed with Arizona, Alexander Kerfoot. So they have added some pieces. I mean, Alexander Kerfoot, probably more exciting maybe than Zach Sanford. And they have weapons. This is what's confusing to me about Arizona is you look at Clayton Keller. This is a guy I would have loved for the Predators to, sell a kidney for. This guy is really something. 37 goals. At some point, they're going to add Logan Cooley. I don't know that it'll be this season, but that's going to be exciting. But they're just not there yet. They finished bottom of the league in defense. We love Connor Ingram. Like, we stan Connor Ingram, as the young hip people say. But, there's some improvements that they need defensively and in net. So for me, I'm going to say basically the same, maybe a little better, but not incrementally enough to make me go, wow.
Oh, I disagree with that.
Really?
I mean, I don't like, they're not going to be a Stanley Cup contender or anything like that, but they added Jason Zucker.
That's true.
I thought was one of the players the Preds should have gone after. Kind of would have been a really good sort of depth scorer kind of guy, like a veteran presence. He's going to help, I think, with somebody like Clayton Keller, find some offense there. They just traded for Sean Durzi as well, who was a very capable top 4 defensemen in Arizona. Now they'd have a lot of losses, like
Yeah.
Jacob Chikrin was one of their two building blocks, and he's,
Yeah.
gone now. Clayton Keller is kind of standing there all by his lonesome. Like they have Logan Cooley. They're gonna need some of the people that they've drafted highly in the last 4 or 5 years to kind of come and step up. And so far it's sort of been slow goings
Yeah.
there. And I think that's maybe, one of like the big things that's kind of held them back is Barrett Hayton going to wind up being like the superstar we thought he was going to wind up being? They got, Matthias Maselli, who was, one of the best rookies in the NHL last year. They're going to need to take another step forward from him. If you're just looking at just kind of the trades and stuff they made and the free agent signings they made, they're certainly better. But in terms of anything to like move them up or down in the standings, nah, probably not.
Yeah. Not sure they're there. I agree. Like maybe they've gotten some better. I just don't know that we're going to see the fruit of that this season.
Yeah, definitely not. Let's talk about the Chicago Blackhawks. And this has been a very interesting season for the Chicago Blackhawks. Corey Perry, they of course made that trade to get both Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno on the roster. I can't remember who they drafted, but apparently
I heard it was good.
There's some people very high on whoever it wound up being. Better or worse, Anne, for the Blackhawks?
I think, and I hate to say it, I do. This is a better Blackhawks team.
Yeah.
This is a better Blackhawks team. And I shudder to think, my friends, because the last thing we want is a Blackhawks team that gets better if Nashville doesn't get better as well, because nobody wants to do that. But Connor Bedard, yes, it's going to be his first season playing in the NHL, his first season playing with the big boys. I think Connor Bedard, there may be some growing pains, but this is somebody who's going to move the needle for Chicago. I think, that I can't stand the mere thought of Corey Perry being in the Central Division, let alone alive. And I don't mean that. I'm sure he's delightful, but on ice. So, you add Corey Perry, which adds an element, I do think that this Chicago Blackhawks team is better. And I hate to say this. Now, they've lost some people. They lost Max Domi, who was their top points guy. Yeah. And I hate to say this, but Chicago is a team that I think might be a little bit fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, also Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews. Yeah. It's funny because it's like, are you comparing them to like what they were sort of in the middle of last year or like where they were at the end of the season?
Yeah.
Because if you're comparing them to the end of the season, yeah, like I think I don't know if I would say better. Okay, I would say better. Yeah. Like my answer is better. Mm-hmm. It's certainly I think in terms of you look at every NHL team, and I think Kyle Davidson, aka Kyle from Chicago, is probably among the GMs that I think had the 5 best off seasons in the entire NHL. Yeah. And I think the Blackhawks, are going to take, a different step forward in terms of what they had to work with and some of the moves that they made. Yeah. Like I think they had a very good offseason. I think maybe just, until Bedard really cements himself, which might be a year. Like I don't think he's going to walk right in the league and score like 100 points next season. But I think he's going to be lights out in another year. I think for next year, I think they're going to be marginally better than the year before. But I think if you're grading the offseason, you got to give the Blackhawks a giant A.
Oh, yeah. I feel like they absolutely killed it this offseason. Darn them.
100%. All right. Well, up next are 2 teams who are probably going to be on top of the Central Division, the Colorado Avalanche and Dallas Stars. Which one of them got better and which one of them might have taken a step back? We'll talk about that, plus a couple of teams the Preds are going to be right in standings fights with. We'll talk about those in a second as well. But first, want to mention today's episode brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, you can take your first swing at betting on Major League Baseball on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. All you have to do is bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets. Here's the kicker: win or lose. That's $200 that you can spend betting on everything from the money line to the over-under on how many runs are going to be scored in the game, to who you think is going to hit the first home run or how many strikeouts a certain pitcher is going to have. And you can do it all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, the best part, when you win, you can get your payout instantly. There's no better place to bet on Major League Baseball than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. Again, FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, and let's move on to a couple Central Division teams who, A, are probably going to be at the top of the standings, B, have some shiny new former Nashville Predators on their roster.
Yeah.
The Colorado Avalanche.
Oh,
Let's start with them. Better or worse, Anne?
Colorado Avalanche, they got better. And you know what? Am I biased? Yes. Yes, I am, friends. Because who did they get? They got Ryan Johansen. And here is what I want to say about Ryan Johansen. And this same thought is going to come up in just a minute with another team. Ryan Johansen is filling a hole that Colorado had, as far as, kind of second line slotting in there and being a playmaker, creating some second line scoring. Ryan Johansen is going to freaking light it up, friends. Like, you heard it here first, because Ryan Johansen is not the main guy. He doesn't have to be the go-to guy. He gets to be the guy who impresses everybody by not being the go-to guy and still getting it done. So I think Johansen is going to be better. They got Miles Wood. I think this team is better. And here's what's so scary to me about Colorado is I'm not sure how much better they needed to get. Although injuries are a thing for Colorado. So that is something to keep an eye on. Yeah, I think Colorado got a little better. And quite frankly, did they need to? Not really.
I mean, it's tough to figure out the Colorado Avalanche right now, Anne, because like they lost JT Compher, who was a very, capable scorer for them last year. They already had been struggling to kind of replace the void left by Burakovsky and Nazem Kadri.
Yes.
Hate to ask this question, but like, are we 100% convinced the Ryan Johansen that we've seen the past couple seasons is an upgrade from JT Compher at this point? Like, in the middle of the lineup, like he's probably going to be playing a top 6 role.
Yeah.
Like, again, like is that like, then that's the thing that Barry Trotz was like, I'm not sure he can do that anymore. Like, are we certain like that's an upgrade?
Yeah. Like, here's what I'm going to say. And I said this before the Preds traded him. Do not count out Ryan Johansen at this point in his career, because I know he's had injuries. There's been lots of little blah, blah, blahs about Ryan Johansen, and, he only shows up in the postseason and all this kind of stuff. Ryan Johansen was as hungry as I've ever heard him at the end of last season. And I'm telling you, I would not bet against that man. Not this season. And I really wish that I could say that with him still in a Predators uniform. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. I think Ryan Johansen he's gonna make us pay, y'all.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Not convinced, but
yeah.
There's other things, like they signed Miles Wood of all people to like a massive contract, and it's like that's the guy you want to go all in on. They lost Eric Johnson. They bring back Jack Johnson, who is fine for them, but there's not. I mean, I get it. The Colorado Avalanche are kind of in cap hell right
Yeah.
now, and they need to sort of be, picky about who they bring back or anything like that. I will say the one thing I do like is the Jonathan Drouin
Yes, I
signing,
know.
because I think he was, the numbers haven't been good, but you watch him play and he's still a good playmaker. And I think would have been the third. He had 2 goals and he had 29 points last year, and he still would have been the Nashville Predators third most assists on the
Yep.
team last year, if that tells you anything about the season. Everybody's saying oh, they're bringing in Ross Colton. That's a sneaky move. I'm not really sold on that yet. Don't get me wrong. The Colorado Avalanche are still one of the best teams in the entire NHL, and they didn't need to do a lot.
They didn't.
I'm just not. I don't look at anything they did this offseason. It's yes, this is definitively a better team than the one we saw at the last season. I would maybe argue a lateral move.
So you would say same?
Maybe the same team, if not maybe a little bit worse.
Huh, interesting. It's going to be fun to watch and see how that plays out.
Yeah, I don't see anything they do moving the needle a lot. Let's talk about the Dallas Stars and better or worse?
Woof. This one hurts my heart. You know what? Here's what's real. The Dallas Stars got better, and call me a homer, whatever. They got better because they got Matt Duchene, y'all. And to my point with Ryan Johansen, I am even more emphatic about this when it comes to Matt Duchene. Matt Duchene does not need to be the guy in Dallas. They already have Jason Robertson. He does not have to be the guy. He gets to be the other guy. And I think Matt Duchene, number one, is going to flourish not having to kind of be the guy because he set the record with the Preds in 21-22. He and Forsberg kind of back and forth. And then last season, wah, wah, wah. But I'm telling you, I think he's going to flourish there. I think if you see Matt Duchene with somebody like Wyatt Johnston, it's going to be excruciating for anybody who's not a Stars fan to watch. So I think they got better. Here's the thing that I think is going to make or break Dallas this season, and that's Jake Ottinger. Mm-hmm. They're going to need him to be better than I think he was at times last season. If Jake Ottinger can kind of get back to that, to the season he had before this one, if he can kind of get back into his groove consistently, Dallas is going to be, I think, maybe even better than Colorado. I really do. Yeah. And I hate everything about that fact, friends.
Yeah, I like the Matt Duchene signing for Dallas. I think that is a perfect fit. And I think, as we talked about when the buyout happened, it's this isn't a guy twiddling his thumbs on the end of the year. He still has a lot of good offensive upside, and him on that team where he doesn't necessarily have to be the guy, but more of a support role. That's going to be a perfect fit for him.
Huge.
And I think he's got the potential to be a 60, 70 point guy playing there, on that second, maybe even third line. And, Dallas has enough depth that they can put him in a lot of different places in that top 9 and still have him be an impact scorer, and help on the power play and all that. They lost Max Domi, which we thought they were going to happen. They bring Craig Smith in instead, another former Predator.
Let's go.
And not a lot of losses. So yeah, I would say, Duchene alone, that move I think makes the Stars even better.
Yes.
This season. Would I love to see them maybe swing for one more defenseman? Maybe. But yeah, I like what Dallas has done.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the Minnesota Wild.
Okay.
A team with some, interesting off seasons the past couple of off seasons.
Yeah. Yeah. Where are you? Are they better? Are they worse? Or are they same, the Wild?
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to, I'm going through the offseason moves, trying to figure out exactly what exactly did you do?
Right.
Other than get Pat Maroon.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is that no Matthew Dumba coming back. You got Brandon Duhame. There's your
There's
big
the guy.
offseason move.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of in a tough spot because they're still dealing with the Suter and Parise buyouts, and Kaprizov's contract is big, and there's not a lot of cap flexibility right now, and they're trying to kind of force things, looking at guys like Matt Boldy and being like, yeah, you're taking over now because
You're the guy.
no plan B. But they do also, in their defense, have maybe the best prospect pool in the NHL, coming, right behind everybody right now. So, I mean, they don't have to do much, but like at the same time, like I don't know what the Minnesota Wild did this offseason.
Yeah, this was
Did they
kind
do
of
anything this offseason?
you really had to look. Like you really had to look to see what Minnesota was doing. But I agree with you. This is a team that maybe didn't have to, and fortunately for them, because of cap space, they didn't have to do a ton. I feel like they're in a good spot. I feel like this is clearly a playoff team. Their series against Dallas, I thought, was excellent. And so I think, the Wild are going to be one of the top teams in the Central Division. I think Colorado, Dallas, but then I think Minnesota's going to be right there. So if you can get a little bit more from what you already have, I think I think they're the same team. But I think, what, if I'm Minnesota and I'm the same team, that ain't too shabby.
Yeah, I mean, again, they didn't lose anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Gustav Nyquist, who was like their offseason signing. John Klingberg was, like another deadline guy, but
Yeah.
neither of those were like, we're front and center of this team.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I would say about the same.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see the Wild and where they wind up next year, because they can go in a couple different directions, I think.
Yeah.
Let's go to the St. Louis Blues.
God love them.
We don't, but that's
Somebody should.
Better or worse?
You know what? I really feel like they're kind of the same. This was another team where I'm like, they were sellers at the trade deadline. And so when I look at kind of the roster that they ended the season with and what they've done in the offseason, I feel like, they're kind of the same. They did bring back Oscar Sundquist on a one-year deal, but look, this is a depth piece. It's an emotional signing. I love it. Great for them. They have Jordan Binnington in net. Don't particularly like his attitude, but kid can save some pucks. Jordan Kyrou, they've got some okay thing. They've got some good things going. I just don't know that they did anything to really improve. So St. Louis is just okay for me.
Yeah, and you're still trying to figure out a way to place Vlad Tarasenko and Ryan O'Reilly.
Right.
Who both left at the end of last year. They have some people on their roster, like, at the end of last year, like when they got Jakub Vrana from the Detroit Red Wings, and he, paid dividends right away. That's going to kind of be, an interesting thing to watch. I don't, their big move was getting Kevin Hayes, obviously. True. And, at this stage, like, Kevin Hayes is a good player. Is he the kind of guy that's going to turn the Blues' fortunes around? I wouldn't really say that. He is going to solidify that lineup a little bit. So there's that. Yeah, I don't have much to say about the Blues. I don't think they've improved enough to be like a good team,
right,
in the Central, unless like Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou just have like 100-point seasons and, sort of break into superstardom. Yeah, I mean, it's the Blues stay the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with you. I think they kind of stay where they're at. We'll see what happens. Here's one that I think is super difficult to predict, because let's see how things land. Talk to me about the Winnipeg Jets, friend.
God. This depends on what your opinion is of the Pierre-Luc Dubois deal. You get a couple of good players in Alex Iafallo, Rasmus Kapari, Gabe Vilardi, who was a very high pick and has kind of had some injury problems early in his career, but has shown flashes of being like a really good NHL player. They have depth. I will say that. I think they have more depth now. I'm just looking at like who's going to be that top guy? Like who's going to be like that number one, that number one, kind of playmaker guy?
Yeah.
Is it still Mark Scheifele?
Yeah.
Like, is it still Mark Scheifele? And if it is, that's fine. Like he scored 42 goals last year. That's nothing to sneeze at. Yeah, I mean, like, who's your future sort of number one guy? That's an interesting one. It doesn't sound like the Jets are done making moves.
That would not surprise me.
This is one that maybe we need to table for another day because, like, if Connor Hellebuyck gets traded, that's going to make them a million times worse.
Yes.
I will say, like, I think the loss of Dubois hurts, but I think the players they got back for him are very capable players. And maybe you lose sort of that top end talent, but you get some very capable talent to sort of build depth around.
Yeah. And I agree with you when it comes to Connor Hellebuyck, how that situation plays out. That is where the next season will go for the Winnipeg Jets, because that's like if the Nashville Predators lost UC Saros, he went somewhere else. That changes the entire trajectory of the next couple of seasons. Same with the Winnipeg Jets. So, where and how goes the Hellebuyck situation? That's definitely going to change what happens in Winnipeg. So I agree with you. This one, still waiting.
Yeah, that situation I think will completely change like what we think about the Winnipeg Jets.
For sure.
Real quick. Okay, so we've gone through every team, and should we do this as the predictions are crazy because who knows what can happen and all that. So let's do power rankings.
Okay.
Like, we have to rank these teams like just based on like talent and like potential to be good next year. Like quickly, where do you rank everybody?
Honestly, Dallas and Colorado are neck and neck for me. I really think Dallas, I am afraid of Dallas. So Dallas and Colorado are my clear-cut battle it out 1 and 2. Minnesota is going to be next for me. So much about what happens next, again, with Winnipeg, what's going to happen with Hellebuyck, what are they going to finish doing? So kind of in that mushy middle for me is going to be Winnipeg. Chicago might surprise us. Maybe in that they may sneak into the mushy middle. Hopefully Nashville lands somewhere in the middle of the Central Division, and St. Louis kind of in the middle. I think Arizona are still working their way out of the bottom. So for me, I see Colorado, Dallas. I kind of see there's a little bit of gray area in the middle, and then I see kind of Arizona bringing up the rear.
Yeah, I'm with you. I have Dallas number 1, and I have like Colorado as like 1A.
Yes.
So maybe just behind Dallas right now. I think Minnesota is probably your 3. And then, this is like the kind of tier, like depends on what happens, certain players, but I have Winnipeg 4. I have Nashville 5, just based on UC Saros. I have St. Louis 6. Actually, no, I have Chicago 6.
I like this.
And then I have St. Louis 7, and I have Arizona last.
Yeah. I think Chicago is going to be the most interesting team as far as what can they do from one year to the next. But I'm telling you, y'all keep your eye on Dallas, because Matt Duchene is going to pop off. He's got something to prove, and it's going to be really hard to watch.
Yeah, for sure. Anne, where can people find your work?
You can find my work online at InsideThePreds.com. You can find me on Twitter at AnnK_Mama on Ice.
You can find me at penaltyboxradio.com or on Twitter at _NSMorgan. That's going to do it for us on today's Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We'll be back tomorrow with an all-new episode.